Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Friday edition of Reaper Pro Tips live. Live here from California. Live wherever you are. Good morning. Good morning. What? Painting while watching crows? This doesn't happen. That's silly. It's ridiculous. Hey team, indeed. It's Overwatch League Day. It's Overwatch League Day. Yay! Okay, that's me geeking out. It's my personal brand of esports geekdom. There we go. So I'm super excited. Today's going to be fun. Painting and watching Overwatch League. For me. Working on the handout for you guys for my Patreon. The SE and MM one. Sky, Earth, and MM. Hey, Norse Wolf. Morning. My tea was hot and strong. That's good. Coffee was, Thursday is my coffee day. So yesterday was my coffee day. I'm allowing myself to have one coffee a week, and it's for my stream, so my personal stream. So we'll see how my guts take to it, because I've been like no coffee for quite a while. All right, so Lizette. Boing. Hey, Lord. Yeah, hot tea works. Every morning, more or less. It gets me going. Where is my Ruddy Flash? There it is, because her skin tone is interesting. And I need to get this white out of the frame so you guys can actually see her. There we go. Sometimes there's too much over stuff. 20 months, Nomad Zeke. Hey, I do skinny vanilla lattes with coconut milk instead of regular milk. So I think it's fine. 3-bean soup is the orc from a few days ago. The big bust casual? Or the little orc, the half orc? Let's see here. Where is she? I was just thinking about doing her skin tone on a big bust I have. So there is our half orcish friend. Yes. Let me get her. Let's make sure we're in focus here. Focus. There we go. No problem. Yeah, it's an interesting skin tone. I told David it's probably going to look way too girly when I put it on a gigantic manly orc. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll get away with it. But she's cool. I can't wait to do red on her dress. I'm going to do a really dark red. Almost like red velvet, I think. It'll be good. It'll be fun. I love red, and I almost never paint it. I don't know why. But for some reason, I guess I'm doing it on Monique now. So Monique will also have, red armor, so I guess I am getting back into red. But considering how much I like to paint the color, it's kind of silly that I haven't, let's see here. And then I've got a shadow I need to get in here. And I'm just mixing up my stuff. So we have a mixture of Ruddy Flesh, which is kind of that golden brown, African and Middle Eastern skin tone. And then not a really, really dark African skin tone, but kind of in the middle. And then to that, we are adding actually a couple of other browns. Where did I put my shield brown? One of them is Shield, which I had out the other day, so I'm kind of like, did I still keep it out? I've been pretty good at putting my stuff away lately. Ah, there it is. My browns are all mixed in with each other. Hello, Lady Mordheim. I loved Mordheim. Mordheim was my favorite Games Workshop game. So let us get... It's 4 drops of the Ruddy Flesh, and then it's 2 drops of the Shield, because I wanted it to shift a little bit more olivey. And then it's 1 drop of Russet Brown, which is a burnt umber equivalent. So that'll warm it up a little bit, give it a richer brown color. And then... Oh, good, Norscan. Yeah. So bonus minis are a thing. And then we also have to give another drop for the shadow. We need another drop of the Russet. And a drop of 9070, which is a very red mahogany brown. We'll get our shadow all mixed up, and then we're going to work on our highlights today because we did not really get those figured out last time. Yes, Reaper's like, here, take free stuff. It's just like Ed on Reaper Live. It's the same thing. Let's see here. That goes there. This goes here. We're good. Excellent. Excellent. Let us grab our thinning medium, aka water. Oh, were there storms, Twistoma? That's the usual springtime to do, right? It's so weird here. Like, unfortunately, we're in a drought, so we did not get a lot of rain this winter. People are scared about the fire season, that it's going to be bad later in the summer. All right, yeah, that's not quite dark enough. I think I need it maybe a little bit darker. I don't know. Sure. We'll go with it. And then I'm going to build a highlight. So usually when I build highlights for a more golden brown skin tone, I'll add a little bit of yellow to them along with my white. I could go kind of a combo and do my Osirian sand, but I think I'm going to do lemon yellow today with a bit of white also. So I just transfer a little bit of my happy skin tone over, shake up my lemon. Okay. Oh, wow. Power outages and everything. Fun. Yeah, I remember those. Do I have my pure white? I could probably use an off-white today. It doesn't really matter so much. I actually don't want her skin tone to go up super fast, so... Well, she's going to be dark-skinned, and I don't think we had decided on a hair color. Oh, yeah, we had. Green. We're going to go green with her. That's right. So I had to figure out what kind of green I want to go. We're going to go Wood Elf. Fatherwind. But I like dark skin tones lately. I really like working with them. I think they're beautiful, and I like coming up with like different versions of color mixes to make each one a little bit different. So mixing the yellow in, you can see it brings it a little more golden, which it would be in like sunlight. And it also makes it much lighter with the white added in. Now I can kind of reverse mix that in if I decide to, which is not a bad idea, into just a little tiny bit into my midtone. So that when I do touch-ups, it'll be in line with my highlight. I like to whenever I make colors, I tend to like mix them into each other. Oh, lemon yellow. Yeah, I mean, I use it probably for skin highlight more than I do the NMM gold highlight. Lemon yellow is a good color. We're going to use it on our dress too, because we're going to be highlighting with it. So using it on the skin means we're repeating a color. Also an and thing. But yeah, Fatherwood. We're doing a Wood Elf on this one. So I still think I need a little bit more dark color in that shadow. It's not dark enough for me. Adding a drop of brown liner, and because that's probably going to be pretty bold, and I don't want it to get gray, I'm going to also add another drop of the mahogany. Or at least half a drop of it. It's nice to have mahogany brown back on my table. It's a very versatile red-brown. It can go very red or it can go very brown, depending on how you decide to shade and highlight it. And what you mix in. There we go. That's a nicer color. I want a bit more drama with my shadows than I had before. So now I can say this is actually a triad. Like you could see that this would be a triad. That's true. Hey, Shadow Raven. Yay, caffeine. Super. Everything is lovely. What did I do? I couldn't paint much yesterday because I did so much streaming. My back finally gave out. It was just like, listen, I know we're on better terms now. But this is just unreasonable. That was my back last night at 9 p.m. It was like, I sat down to do some painting and it was like, after like half an hour. So although my morning exercises have fixed almost all my back issues, and I can do like 4 hours of, painting a day now, which is far improved, it definitely still has a few limits. So, okay, when you've got your highlight, you do the entire forehead. Because the forehead always picks up light. And the forehead is also always warmer. Hey, Dabber. You just keep forgetting, crows. Oh, you should be like me and keep a sticky note pasted to your computer so you don't forget. Oh, we need to get a blush color too, and I think that's going to be straight up mahogany. Because she's got, we need some rosy tones in her face. And since I'm already using mahogany, I mean, you see how red it is. Since I'm already using it in the model, it makes a lot of sense to use it for her blush colors as well. Yeah, Durham, well, it was at a point where I couldn't do more than a half an hour a day until I started doing my yoga in the morning. Now my body is almost to the point where I can really abuse it again. The body's like, no, you were so nice to me for a little while. And now my back's like, here she comes again. Let's give her a reminder. So yeah, I'm going to grab a little bit of the highlight color that I just grabbed, and I'm going to mix it into this. And the amount of white that I added is going to take it a little lighter, but not too light. So that makes an interesting reddish hue. I don't mind going really interesting with her skin colors, since she's a wood elf and we're painting her with unnatural hair color. For all we know, she's half dryad, right? So since we have that story going on, we can work with it, right? So, okay, so if she's say she's half dryad, then her skin being more woody toned makes sense. And I could go a little unnatural with some of the other colors on her, and we would be fine. So, yeah, mid-60s is what it's been here. So I need to probably thin this just a bit. Yeah, no, it's pretty good, actually. Not too bad. We'll see how red this is. Making her hair reddish would also be a good option. I am weighing a little bit whether we want to go with the green hair, because I wanted to do some green freehand on her dress, and because we're going probably greenish yellow with shadows on the dress. So I'm just painting in some reddish tones here. I'm going to add some reddish tones to the nose, even if I end up losing a lot of that when I highlight. Reddish tones to the nose always help to make a face look more real. You can see the reddish kind of blush color coming through there. Sometimes you can even make it here and here. I was thinking of doing a class on zones of color in faces and how to do better faces. Dang. Yeah, for sure, Twisted Oma. Get him up. Take a walk. Sounds great. Hit a nice restaurant and then take a walk afterwards to burn off the calories. Yeah. Let's see here. Where else do I want that color? And the other place that you often see rosy color, although you normally see painters do it on bigger models rather than littler models, but you'll often see it on knuckles. If you look at your own knuckles, you tend to see pink on the knuckles, right? More pink. And on the tips of the fingers, too. So a lot of this is wasted on very small models, but you can do it. And, of course, the palms of the hands tend to be a little bit as well. But see how much of it actually sticks around after you do it. Because you also tend to highlight the knuckles, and so that tends to wipe out your highlights, or your highlights tend to wipe out your red tones, but we'll see. I at least like to do it to remind myself it's a thing. Thanks, Cerebro. Yeah, I mean, I really have been working a lot on my realistic faces, and so I've been doing a lot of study on color and texture, and, you know, just how some people who are very, very good at them execute. A little bit on the knee here. Just suggest a little bit more red color. So I'm just messing around, just putting some red tones in here and there. Those red tones will play very nicely off of the greens when we start adding them in. That's good. And they also help to make the skin tone more lively and less flat. It's very easy when you're using just like a brown, if you're trying to make her look woodsy like a dryad, you know. We're not going with a very vibrant, like a blue skin tone. We're not going with a really vibrant yellow highlight. So in order to add complexity, adding the reddish tones in really helps. Alrighty, so let's get this highlight thinned down because I'm going to start putting it elsewhere. And I'm also going to thin my base coat down so I can do a bit of blending between the two. Shadows really help define your face, but it's highlights that really make it start popping out to the camera. The camera likes to pick up on light, just like the human eye does. Oh, the ears also need some red. Like I said, this is often very minimal, kept very minimal on a 28mm. You can do a lot more on bigger models. Small touches of color on a 28 tend to totally get lost. Which is why you see people highlight skin tones very flat for the most part. Especially when they're just starting to get better at skin tones, they tend to concentrate more on where the highlights and shadows go and making them work, which is fine. Usually after you've gotten that down is when you start going, okay, what more can I do with this? Now I want this to come down to the front of the face. Need to get the top lip. So the key here is to not have a lot of paint on your brush. You're doing these tiny little details. You're trying to be very precise in how you place your highlight color. And if you mess it up, repainting everything is like a thing that will happen. So try to be really precise. And so you have very tiny amounts of paint on your brush. Unload your brush. Unloading your brush is key. Hello, Durham. Hello, Jelly. And I've gotten a little bit too dark on my shadow here on the side of the nose. So I'm going to bring that a little bit back here with my mid-tone. You want to define the nose, but you don't want it to be too much. I'm back to using my DaVinci lately, Cerebro. So, DaVinci Maestro Series 10, size 1. The old faithful, as I call it, the brush that I've used for so many years for high-level painting. I don't know how I just switched away from the Raphael, and like, it's like my brushes kind of cycle on my tabletop. It's like one of them will just kind of end up next to my palette, and that's the one I'll grab, and I'll just start working with it. And as long as it doesn't frustrate me, I just go with it. Yeah. Cool. I hope they work for you well. Remember to load gently and without dipping too much of the brush into the paint jelly, and to unload well. Because you want to be able to do tiny details. What sizes did you get? Yeah, I do love the DaVinci. I'm a DaVinci fangirl, and lately a Raphael fangirl as well, but DaVinci was my love for decades and still plays a large part in my painting. A 1 and a 0. Okay, the 0 is going to be comparable to my Series 10 size 1 DaVinci. The 0 is very comparable, so those are good sizes. All right, so we've got the face showing up a bit better here. Yeah, I think there's been a big push on Raphael. I mean, European painters really, really push the bigger brushes in my experience. And a lot of us here in America have also been discovering that we really, really like the brand. So and thus pushing it. And so I'm not surprised that we are seeing a run on it. So a little bit more golden highlight up on the forehead. And I'll be bringing that up as well. So now these little details, like the chest. And once again, it's about brush control, but it is really about having less paint on your brush, unloading your brush. If you are on my Patreon, watch the video on unloading your brush. That's an order. And I know I just got a couple of new patrons, so if you're out there watching, thank you. I'm going to send you a welcome email later today. But yeah, patreon.com/paintingbig. I have a video specifically on loading and unloading your brush. It's really important for control. All right, let's get a little bit, I've been painting a bit closer to the camera, so let's get in there. I'm going back and forth on the green hair, whether I want to go with red or green, because I kind of want some accent color pendrake. So yellow dress with plant designs is still there, but because I might want to go with green plant designs and leaves and stuff, I'm thinking about going reddish with the crystal in the hair, maybe the wrap. But I'm not in a hurry to make color decisions. Like I think this is the mistake. It's not really a mistake. I mean, it depends on your style, right? It depends on how you paint. But I think a lot of beginning painters maybe rush into color decisions when actually you may learn more just by letting a miniature develop. Just make your first decision. And, I always say choose your first color and work from it, but that isn't to say that you have to choose that first color and then choose all your other colors. Like I derive the most enjoyment from making my first decision and then just letting the model develop. Like when I mixed this reddish blush color, I really liked it. And I'm like, wow, that'd make a rockin' hair color for her. So, but then we'd already thought maybe a wood elf. So I'm like, I'm going to go back and forth on it. And I'm probably going to start doing the dress and see what I think will work best with it. Yeah, the porcelain palette is still in stock, as far as I know. Interesting, Inara. Gets too random. Too many colors, maybe. You might be able to overcome that with limiting yourself to 3 colors and then going neutrals from there. That's what I find very helpful. And I lean very heavily on neutrals as a painter. So that's, take that with a grain of salt, totally, and thing. But hey, Carrie Michael, thank you. 10-month streak. With Prime, even. Too many color syndrome is a thing. It's not just you, Val. And to be fair, when you are just a baby painter, it makes sense to pick out, at least your main colors in advance. Because, like I said, like Inara points out, it's possible to get yourself into a color corner very easily. So, if you find that that is a problem you have, then, yeah. Sure, plan it out. But often I find that people who get themselves into real color corners also aren't using neutrals very much. Or they're not using as many neutrals as they could. And that, again, that's part of style. That's a color thing, a color choice thing. And as a painter, you may find that you don't enjoy neutrals and you just don't want to do them as much as I do. And that's totally valid. Here, we've set ourselves up with a very neutral skin tone, so we've still got a wide open playing field here. That's the nice thing about doing your standard skin tones are pretty neutral. And this brown is a little bit golden, but it's pretty neutral still, so we could go any direction we want. And the nice thing about it being darker is that then if we go for that light, the yellow dress, then that really works well with this skin tone. It'll be nice contrasts. Pendrake, not really even open to it. I'm sorry, but I just don't like to. I'm like, no, I want to surprise myself. You could do that, certainly. Like, this suggests that this could be a plant and the crystal could grow out of it. I don't think I want to do that. And I certainly don't want to, like, decide when I've just decided not to decide. But yes, the style of this this topper is such that you could absolutely paint it like an organic plant instead of like wood. You could go either way with it. That's a very valid decision. But I may decide when I get there that I may want the staff to be black, right? And I may decide because I decide I need more contrast or that I'm lacking dark colors on the figure. So yeah, exactly, Jelly. I don't want to like wreck it. Like, you know, I paint every day for work. So any enjoyment that you can get out of that, you should get. And part of the fun for me of painting in front of you guys, and sometimes I do ask for your suggestions, and that's cool, but that's not like the thing I want to do all the time, because for me, it's fun to explore the model also, so. Usually, when I ask you guys for input, what I'm seeking to avoid is me defaulting to like old color options, so you guys can be really useful there to me, because you'll usually suggest or think of colors like I would not have normally thought of yellow for her, you know, but now we can go and explore yellow, and that's cool. But yeah, I make decisions about things like the staff absolutely last, Pendrake, and the reason, there's a very solid reason for this, is that your staff is almost always going to incorporate your accent color, and I usually won't choose an accent color until I've got a lot of the other colors blocked in, because I want to see what I need. So when I get there, then I'm going to be like I'm going to leave this wrap open, because the wrap on any weapon or the hilt on any weapon, if it's showing, is an excellent place for an accent color. Crystals are excellent places. Flowers are excellent places. Sometimes little details like potion bottles can be excellent places. Gemstones can be excellent places. Even like the little bits of like maybe her little wrist cuffs could be a good place for an accent color. Freehand is a good place for an accent color. Things like that. So I'm keeping my options open for as long as I can to see where I am. Like right now, I could go really pale with her hair, pale green yellow, or I could go black green with it. If I go black green with it, that's going to change the color of my staff. So I'm keeping this in balance in my head, because mostly what I'm looking for on a 28 millimeter is to make sure I've got dark, light, dark, light, dark, light contrast. So there's got to be some middle colors, there's got to be some really dark colors, and there's got to be some really light color on a 28 for it to be successful, in my opinion. You mean the gray Pendrake? This is actually Bones USA. It's not Bones Black. Yeah, exactly, Jelly. When your model decides that it wants to do a thing. Yeah, we don't usually do unnatural hair colors. I'm kind of back and forth though, Quindy, because I really like this red. So I could still go red. It's up in the air. I mean, the upside of doing the hair as like a blackish green is that I could go like a pale pinkish color with the flower. Or yellow, if I decide I need more of a yellow. Because I might end up covering up a lot of the yellow on the dress with freehand or something. So, I'm also probably going to make her trim not metallic. I might go green with that. Like, we might go with a combo of dark greens and yellows here. So I'm kind of like, it's step by step. She's got, this is an earlier Talon design, but it still has a lot of detail in it. And so I need to kind of like keep an eye on everything and the colors that I'm using for everything. Yeah, but I don't know. I like the red. So, and I know that I can't give her a red dress because we're doing yellow. So for me, I'm like, well, I go back and forth. So we'll see. I am leaning toward a black green though, a very, very dark, because, and this is why. Okay, so there's two different ways you can go here. Yeah, this is the great thing about painting, Zen, about painting the way I do, where, you know, you're just painting it one section at a time and you're just concentrating on making each section, you know, nice, is that then it's like, well, what am I going to do here? Ooh, what am I going to do? That's going to influence what goes on over here, right? But, well, it's not even a comfort zone thing. I prefer natural skin and natural hair tones. I just tend to not like painting a model with colored hair. It's not that I don't like colored hair in person. I know plenty of people who dye their hair and it looks beautiful, but my mom almost let her hairdresser talk her into when she was younger, almost let her talk her into a purple. That's how cool my mom is. And my mom is not that kind of cool usually. But she was thinking about it because my hairdresser had done hers in a dark purple and it looked really good. But yes, I don't know. I just tend not to. I push myself out of my comfort zone a lot, so I'm not in it for that, really. I tend to choose where I do. And usually it's on bus these days. But yeah, we'll see. I'm leaning toward okay, so the reason we would go black with it, guys, we've got a couple of options here with her hair. And the reasons for doing them would be that we have a dark skin tone. So we needed to attract attention to this skin. And it's going to be a lot harder than when it is light because the human eye looks at light. And so fair skin but has you know, it's got lighter highlights, and so the eye looks at it right away. When you're working with a dark skin tone, you have to use other tricks to get the eye to look at the expression of the figure. And one of the ways we could do it is to go like a white hair, right? We talked about doing a silver hair before I thought about green. Or I could do a very pale green-white. And that would attract attention up here right around the face. And so the contrast would do that. The other way to do it is to go black with the hair, really, really dark, which makes the face right next to it look lighter. So those are the two ways that we could attract attention to her features. I am going to be popping the highlights up more. And that will help as well, because tight detail is also a way to attract the eye. That's why freehand works. Cool for your mom, Valandar. Yeah, I like it on some figures. I thought about giving my halfling a pink streak in her hair. Like, she's still blonde now, but like, and of course she's headless, but I'm getting to the point where I might do the pink streak. Because the problem really was that she has pink lips already. And there's very little hair. So if I did it, I would do one of these little forehead locks. But I haven't really, it depends on the gemstone at her neck too, like what I do. Again, I'm basing all of my color decisions based on balance of the figure. Overall color across the figure. How am I spreading the color across the figure? How noticeable is it? Do I need another touch of pink up there? Or do I more need the yellow to be a complement to the purple on the figure? These things are what you think of, or what I think of. Black green is not going to distract because black, I mean, if I'm doing mostly like a really, really dark green with like some lighter green highlights, it's not gonna, like, it's still gonna be black. I'm gonna have the highlights be very, very small, Durham. And when hair seldom takes away from a face, keep that in mind. Be on a 28 millimeter, busts are different. On a 28 millimeter, you can use the hair to draw attention to the face. Like on drow. This is always what you do with drow because you've got that silver hair. And so you have that really dark drow skin tone or a really muted drow skin tone. And the way that you get past that is by making the hair really light. Yes, the viewer's eye might flick to the hair first, but then immediately afterwards it's going to go to the face. And that's what you want. That's what she asked for. Yep, the headless halfling. Yeah, I took her head off again because I realized I needed to hold her cape in my hands to do all this freehand. Like, I thought I maybe could do it. You know, and I want to do cloth texture up here, and I want to, you know, I just want control. So, and I need to do some texture on the inside too. I decided against freehand. So I took her head off again. But I got a lot more done on her body, so I'm happy. No, not neon. I mean, you could go that way, but you'd have to go, okay, so the problem with using a really bright color, Durham, is that then everything else has to be bright. So depending on how bright I want to go with the rest of these colors, I'm limited as to what I can do. So if I pushed a really bright green up here, all the rest of my colors have to be bright or neutral. That's it. The new muted colors do not look good with bright colors unless you are using the bright colors as accent. Technically, I suppose you could do the opposite too, but I've never tried it. But yeah, I seldom, like, I go vibrant with some projects. Like Halfling here has a pretty bright pink, and her pants are pretty bright purple blue. But I don't go like, it's still muted just a little, because if you mute your colors just a little, then you have a lot more play in what your other colors are choosing. I always keep myself as many options as I can. I believe we've got a couple different layers here because that's what Izzy does. Damn it, Izzy. So what you've got is kind of a vest on her. See the shoulders, and those I believe are part of the sleeves. But the bodice can be painted completely differently, and it comes down in here, and then you've got the skirts. So it's more likely for the sleeves to be a different color than the dress, or the same color as the dress, and for the bodice to be a different color. Now I could also, and this is an interesting thought, I'm going to do it right now, imply that this is just laced over her stomach. Let's see if I like this. Rather than, because there's no sign of any undergarment. And there could be a flap, across most corsets have a flap there, but I'm kind of curious if I could just do laces across the midriff and see if I like that. I don't know if I like it, but anyway, we're going to do that for now. Hey, Gergie, thank you. 13 months on a sub-anniversary streak. Yeah, so everything I'm doing, I'm wanting to leave myself as many options as possible, especially early on in this figure. Hey, actually, you know what, guys? I got a better idea. Better idea. We will give her a contrasting stomacher. We'll use the red. Didn't wait for the other color to dry, so it got mushy. But that's possible. I'm going to keep that there. If I don't like it, I'll paint over it. But I was thinking a very, like, black-green hair, and that same sort of black-green probably for her bodice, yellow for the dress. Then I'm going to have to figure out what color I want for these buckles and everything here. And I should probably look at Derek's Lizette to see how he painted it, because some people paint this as part of the dress, and some people paint this this midriff area as more leather, like a big wide leather belt, essentially, with all these buckles that buckle into the dress. So you could go either way with it. Izzy probably knows exactly what she intended. So many people have painted this figure, Durham. Yeah, everybody does. Everybody has a different take on it. Yeah, well, the sculpt wouldn't be like nearly what it is without being based on Izzy's concept art, Father. This is direct from Izzy's concept art and Werner's original sculpt, and Bobby essentially like putting a new twist on it. Derek did the same color as the dress. Yeah, so he was assuming it was fabric being buckled into that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you could do it either way. I mean, there is no right, there is no wrong. Izzy probably took this from possibly took this from a historical reference. She uses a lot of costuming tricks in her art to make interesting clothing. So this could be based on an actual piece of gear, in which case that would be the correct way to paint it. But I hate to hear that. Like, I don't think there is any correct way to paint. I think you can paint it however you want. Yep, thanks, Quindy, for the link. Yeah, there are different takes. I mean, this is a resculpt based on the Werner, which was based on the Izzy artwork. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much Shadow Raven. Yeah. All right, cool. So where are we? I needed to highlight a little bit more on the hands, then we need to mix our next highlight. Been talking about color so much. When I talk on color, I stop painting. Bad me. Bad me. So we do want to highlight. I usually highlight the knuckles. And I've lost a little bit of my lining, so I'll have to come back and get that. But that's all right. So you definitely want to highlight the fingers too, and not just in blobs of color. one of the biggest problems I see with hands is people just striping the highlight on and that's it. When you look at your hand, you have variation. You've got bumps at your knuckles that are going to pick up light, and then you've got kind of dips with the bone between there. So it pays to kind of highlight accordingly. You know, you'd get that highlight at the knuckle and then a little bit of a shadow on the underside, right? So think about that. It's little touches. It's these little touches that make the difference between a silver model at ReaperCon and a gold model. Hey, Destiny. Welcome to the stream. Does the story have a question on it? Because this is very much a question and answer stream, although I'm also just explaining what I'm doing. So, I mean, shoot. The light is in a fireball. Pat? Well, part of it is that I'm answering questions too, Pat. Like, if I were just sitting and painting, I probably would have gotten all this done in an hour. Okay, so if you are a new painter, base coat it, line it, just like I did. So the dark lines, do that. And then throw one highlight on the areas. You're still going to have to, like know where to put your highlights, right? Forehead, tops of the cheekbones, bridge of the nose, upper lip, chin. And then usually do a highlight reaching back along the jawline. And if you just do that, not only will you, and plus, highlight the fingers, highlight the other pieces of skin. Like I highlighted the shoulder there, you can see it. That will give you, I mean, that's what I've done, right? And like I said, I could have done it a lot faster if I wasn't, Yeah, I mean, the reddish shadows are a good, they really do make it look like skin. So when you don't paint it flat. But if you are just looking to practice skin, the key is control and to thin your paint, because otherwise you'll get blotchy skin. But yeah, so I mean, this is probably minimum that I would do. And I still would do the reddish shadows in the cheekbones. I might drop all the rest of the red, but I always do the reddish here, because this is how you paint faces to look real. And it's part of what gives a face a not flat effect. Yeah. So hole in the bucket, Destiny. Got it. We have a drought here in California right now. A drought. Sorry, drought is totally different thing. Alrighty. Stretch time is coming very soon. But yeah, so if you are a brand new painter, Pat, that's it's minimum. In my opinion. Honestly, if you just base coat the skin and line it as a new painter, that will improve your brush control. Trying to get the lines right and doing touch-ups is going to improve your brush control a ton. And it's going to look 10 times better than if you hit it with a base coat and a wash, in my opinion. And then if you add a highlight and maybe some rouge under the cheeks, like some red color, even on guys, just a little bit. With guys, usually I use a darker red, and I mute it out by adding a lot of the skin tone to it. But yeah. So, all right, let's see. I do the back of the hands. But yeah, I am being constrained. I definitely paint slower on stream because I am answering so many questions. So usually, yeah, it is time to stretch in just a second. I'm going to finish my skin highlights on the back here. So usually, Pat, if I were doing this and I was just working on my own, it would take about an hour to get all the skin done, I think. Depending on how complex I was trying to do it, and if I was pushing myself with a brand new color scheme, and if I was having trouble. Guys don't get rouge, they get rugged shadow. I was just talking about how if I painted my big orc bust the same way that I painted my half orc, we'd have a cross-dressing orc population in our collection, because David painted an orc bust also, but he painted it, it was a pirate orc, so he made it Jack Sparrow, except it was Jork Sparrow, I think. And he definitely has eyeshadow because Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow. So if I give my male orc berserker a little bit too much rouge, I think we're gonna be noticing a trend here. All right, so I always hit the finger bones, the tendons on the back of the hand, always. Now, I don't always leave them stripy all the way up to the cuff, and it really depends on how you're gonna do it. I'll take my mid-tone usually after I've got it down, and I'll kind of blend them in just a little bit. But I definitely want that highlight at the knuckles right there. It adds to the realism of the back of the hand. The back of the hand is not just a blob at that point, and it shouldn't be. And then any future highlights, I'll be hitting the knuckles more because that's where, that's where the hand that's going to bulge out, right? See, you can even see it, right? Look at the bands of highlight and shadow on the back of my hand and how the knuckles get the light. And they lighten just because the bone comes up to the surface. So if I want to make a cross-dressing orc berserker, like maybe they've, his orc friends have, been laughing at him for his excessive blush, and he's just mad at them. That's why he gets mad. I don't know. I mean, he could be. I could do it. I could pull it off. I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably minimize it. What I'll do is I'll darken it. I won't. I'll make it a much darker red and work it into some browns. Maybe purple. Who knows? Yeah. So all right. So there's our first level of highlight. Now we will stretch. Oh, and I forgot to line the booty. No lining. Oh no. Bad. So I'll fix that. There we go. Nope, Napalm. This is a Da Vinci Maestro Series 10, which is their normal round, size 1. It is a much smaller one than a lot of brushes come out. This is actually equivalent in size to a size 0 Winsor & Newton Series 7. He's an 80s glam rock star. Right. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work, right? But yeah, so this is the type of brush that I used for competition painting for over 20 years. And I go back and forth between this and my lovely Raphael. So my brush sequence, there's a big size difference, but the tip is similar. And then the other one I use is a tiny brush. Tiny brush has been put aside for this project because I don't need it yet, but I might need it for freehand. We'll see. So tiny brush is there. So those are the three sizes of brush that I use. And my finger for scale. So my biggest one is the Raphael, followed by my Da Vinci's my middle brush, middle child, and then the baby of the family is the... And this is also a Da Vinci. It's a triple aught Da Vinci Series 10. I tend to like a standard round shape. That just I tend to migrate to the standard round no matter what brush brand I'm in. This one, the hobby holder. Yeah, we are using the hobby holder. The one that Reaper came out with in the RVE swag box. I think a couple other companies are selling them now too. But yeah, I like it just because I can just blob. I mean, it's a nice, comfortable thing, and I like the weight. That it's got a bit of weight to it. So I feel like my model's not going to overbalance, even if it's a metal model, unless it's a real slug. That's my big problem with, like, if I have metal models, then they're heavy, and so it can be hard to get a well-weighted holder, but I think for a metal 28, this would be just fine. It is a bottle cap, Nomad Zeke. That's the genius of the hobby holder, is that it is made to fit a standard bottle cap, so that you can just unscrew your figure. I kid you not, you can unscrew your figure and screw it back on with your bottle cap. So if you use bottle caps all the time to hold your figures, get a freaking hobby holder because it's going to fit all your bottle caps and you'll just be able to switch out your figure with a handle. Like, it's brilliant. Like, someone should have figured this out beforehand. Like, long ago. But yeah, so yeah, it is brilliant. And you can have all your figures ticky-tack to just bottle tops that most of the time you get for free if you drink things with bottle tops. And then, yeah, you actually just buy one fairly inexpensive holder and it will fit all of them. Yeah. I do not put figures on bottle caps. I tend to like wood blocks, but we're experimenting with this one. It is nicer to hold. Although I tend to hold just like that. So okay guys, so actually I'm going to do a short video on this for my YouTube, like coming up. Like I'm actually going to do short tip videos. And the first short tip video is going to be about using these suckers. The most important thing for any sort of holder isn't price or anything like that, is how comfortable is it for you to hold for long periods of time. Like if you are using a handle, it should be really comfortable in your hand. You should not have to, feel like you're kind of cramping or uncomfortable, and you shouldn't have to feel like you've got this giant thing that you're holding either. So whatever you use, whether it's 3D printed or whatever, like experiment a bit and find the thing that really is comfortable for you to hold. And this has a nice, comfortable shape to it. The other most important thing, like I said, is having it be somewhat heavy if you're working on models other than plastic and resin. Because you don't want it to overbalance. It's mostly comfortable to hold, but I'll tell you, if I was doing this for hours versus doing this for hours, this is more comfortable, Fubeka. There's comfort and there's comfort. Like there is, I can hold one of these for hours, but holding this is a lot more pleasant. So you gotta like just weigh it, right? Hey, Bob and Julie. I'm gonna get her in focus and do my stretches. Yeah, that's what it's meant to do, Durham. Is to swap them on and off of the hobby holder. I don't do that because I just tend to like my, I just have so many little blocks, right? And I actually don't drink soft drinks or anything, so I don't get bottle caps very often. Although I guess I do pick up sparkling waters sometimes that have the bottle caps, so I should probably save those. Yeah, I used medicine bottles or old film canisters forever, Jelly. Yep, and some people used ice cubes and all of that. But just find something, please, that's comfortable for you to hold for long periods. KK? Like, we always, we put too little emphasis on comfort as we contort ourselves into weird positions to paint. So, like, whatever you can do is, like, in your best interest. Yeah, I don't do water bottles anymore because I don't like the waste in the environment, Durham. I do, that's why I went to just filtered water with my own pitcher. And then we have reusable water bottles. So I used to at Reaper, I used to go through so many. But I just started not liking the impact, so I shifted. So now I try to use mostly, reusable stuff, and we do what we can. But but I buy these big bottles of sparkling water from Polar, a brand. Yeah, Valandar, exactly. That's why you should always experiment and find out. Like, I have a friend who just cuts dowel rod. He's got, wood card. It's Brian Pearsall who teaches at ReaperCon. He just gets thick pieces of dowel rod, and he just cuts those into appropriate lengths for his hands. And then he built, with a drill, he built a long piece of wood where he just sunk holes into it that fit the dowel rods, so he can essentially have this lineup of figures, all on dowel rods, just sitting nice and secure and untip overable. Recycling is, it's a sensitive subject. A lot of the plastic that we think we're recycling actually isn't recycled. It's trashed, Pendrake, according to recent studies and some expose articles on NPR and other news sources. A lot of recycling, because recycling is so expensive, it's not what it should be. And I'm thinking, this makes sense because we have all those water bottles floating around the ocean. But, yeah, so, yes, see, Zenbacon knows too, plastic isn't really recycled. They've actually been fibbing to us for years, and we should kind of be pissed about that. But yeah, if you look around for some articles, Pendrake, you'll find it. It's been kind of publicized the last couple of years. People are really disappointed about it. That's why I've got all these companies like Nike who are now repurposing plastic bottles into clothing, like they're doing super fine spun plastic and integrating that as part of their nylon. I still recycle, but I just try to like produce less waste, like just in total. But yeah, do your own research, come to your own conclusions, as always. We don't really talk politics on the show, so I don't want to go too far into it, but I personally believe that the less waste I produce, the better. And so I work to do that. It's hard sometimes. There's so many tasty things packaged in stuff. Yeah, fancy wood. Yep. Oh, you got it for free. That's funny. Yeah, Fubeka. So it's just so maybe like things like maybe cutting up dowel rod or something like that would work for you, right? Because you'll be able to find a good size. Sheets of balsa wood. Yep. Yeah, we've just got various blocks and bits of wood that we use for plinths and stuff for our models. So I can usually find something, but this is very comfortable to hold. Like, the biggest problem I have is like just sorting it out with the way that I tend to hold my whole arrangement. Like if you switch your holder up, like if I'm used to doing this, I'm used to having my hands balanced in a certain way and my brush positioned in a certain way. And when you switch to a different holder, suddenly I may not be up here anymore. I may be down here, right? I'm trying to swap up my brush position, and that's different, right? Because if you look at how close my hand is to the model here, as opposed to like how close my hand gets to the model here, you see there's a big difference depending on what holder you're using. So also evaluate that, right? Like, what's your comfortable position for painting, and how close to the model or far away from the model is comfortable for you, and which holder does the best job at that for you. I have a fancy wood holder that I kickstarted, but I need to, the problem is that I hate the cork because sticky tack doesn't stick to it. So I need to actually just put a piece of plastic card probably over the top. But this is a nice one. It is nicely weighted. It unfortunately has paint smeared on it because it's a painting thing. It has a dowel and it sits in a little holder like a cup, like an egg cup. And it's got the holding bar up here. So that's a nice one too, but I haven't used it for a bit. Mostly because I find it's a little bit too lightweight. Yeah, I could see that. Well, maybe like if you made some plastic card circles or printed out some discs, bigger discs, Declearman, and just like super glued those to bottle caps. Because with this, since you don't have a support arm on it unless you choose to, you could easily do that and get a wider platform. Oh, nice, Quindy. It's, if you tend to do like I tend to do, sometimes I tend to do this with the fingertip on the head, like, and so the bar is meant to be a finger brace that keeps your hand off the miniature jelly. Some people like them, some people don't. It really depends on what your habit is, but if you have that habit of resting your fingertip on the top of the head to like paint things, and you notice you're always getting rub off, because that area is very prone to rub off because of the texture of hair. So the holding bar is meant to kind of give you that crutch for your hand's stability, but at the same time not do the bar, or not rub off the hair. Yep, that's true. Declearman has a point. It can also steady your hand for fine detail. Let me get a back in focus here, folks. Now that we're back. Now you know. Yeah, the wood one is a little bit too light for me. It's too easy to knock over. It's a little bit too tall. It's a little bit too easy to knock over. This one with this little heavy butt is pretty good. Pretty good. I still kind of wonder what I did with my GW one. It's around here somewhere. I have something stuck on it. The GW one is spring-loaded, which is cool because it can adapt, but the problem is that it doesn't do well with heavy models. Like metal models, because it's just, the spring isn't strong enough if you've got a really heavy metal 28 mil. Oh, nice, Rebecca. It cured you of resting your finger on that altogether. Yeah, I took mine off because I tend to just rest my hand here and rest my fingers together here. This is a different position than I usually have when I'm painting a figure, but it's not too different. But yeah, so the bottom line is Use what's comfortable, use what fits your budget and your painting habits. And experiment to find the best option. Chances are, if you buy a miniature holder and you don't like it, you'll be able to pass it on to some friend. Especially if you do, like, once we're back to like semi-normal, if you do a paint club, there are always new people coming in who need help, and giving them like a cheapo wooden block for their first ever handle is like, you know, usually they are very grateful. So, all right, so now we need to mix our next highlight. Boom, here we go. No, this one original is the hobby holder. So if you type hobby holder, miniature holder, I think it's on which website? I think Reaper's selling them, somebody said. I have it, Pendrake, but I usually don't, like the GW one, I just never use. Like, you all have seen the funniest handle I have, which is the Red Bull energy shot with Miss Duelist. Like, that's probably the most amusing one. Reaper sells it. Yeah, Durham said Reaper sells it. Original. It's called the hobby holder. It's a couple other, also. Trouble with brain. But yeah, the problem is, Pendrake, is that with all of the models I have, it is impossible to fit everything on a shelf. David and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 miniatures cabinets spread throughout the house. That's why I have to run out of here when I want to go and grab something for you guys. Oh, okay. They're not permanently selling it. Well, what's the site that has the hobby holder? Like, there's a particular site that's selling them. Honestly, custom toys, I tend to use a big wooden block or a big, like, I have the big, this is a 2-inch? Yeah, I think it's a 2x2. These are the cheapo wooden blocks that you can get at Hobby Lobby or Michael's in their wood section. Like, I use the little ones all the time, too. But this is my biggest one. And I just put a huge thing of sticky tack on here, poster putty, and I stick the giant down. Like, it's like Sphinx. Sphinx is kind of like the next size down from this. She's a bigger model, so she has a bigger block. They're not as comfortable as the round holders, but it suits the larger model. For dragons, I just use bubble wrap. I wrap up the dragon and I paint it holding onto the bubble wrap because there is no base. There's no working base that will satisfy me as far as that. For the hobby holder. Okay. Game Envy. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. GameEnvy.net. Yep. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, they're cool. I want to try out their plinths because they custom make plinths. Oh, good. Reaper like customer service. That's good to know. Well, now I definitely want to order some plinths from them. All right, so let's see here. We need to take our previous highlight and mix more stuff into it. And this is where I kind of go, all right, do I really want to go more yellow with it? I know I want to go with more white. You can go too yellow, but since I'm using lemon yellow, and lemon has a lot of white in it, I think I'll be okay. I'm going to try it. Yeah, Etsy, Amazon, all sorts of. Yep. Yeah, I'm not a fan of cork, but if you're sculpting, then the cork works great. So I'm going to use a drop of lemon and a drop of bleached linen, and we're going to see how it goes. Yeah, Reaper-like customer service is, you know, like a rare and precious thing. All right, so yeah, the lemon was really good on this. It didn't get too yellow, but we're definitely building. See how we're building our progression of highlights. Remember about the grayscale tip that you want to see the difference. So my first highlight was around a value 6, I want to say. When I'm holding this up so that I can see the edge of the grayscale against the color to see whether the edge is dark. See how it's darker? With 7, you can see it's definitely darker. And with 5 you can see it's a little bit lighter. So it's probably around a 6.5. 5.6. And then when you go up, you want to go up a fair amount. So let's see if we've gone too far. If you go, there is really no too far. You could highlight this with white if you wanted, but I think we're at a 4. So we went from a 5, 6 to a 4, which is about a 1.5 steps, which is about my perfect step ratio. So you see how I'm using the grayscale there? I did a thing on that as well for the Patreon. So a video. Ergonomic grip, I see. Well, I mean, it'd be cool if Reaper sold it, but it doesn't make sense for Reaper to sell it if you can get it everywhere else. Like, I ordered mine from Game Envy. Like, I don't want all my money to go to one company in the industry. I'm very happy spending money on other companies' sites because I like to spread the wealth. All right, so really light up there. That's really light. Might be too light. We'll see. So I went in and I put a lot of white into this color. But then what I did is I did not thin it as much as I needed to. So you can see how bold that is, right? So we're probably going to have to knock it down. So what I did, whenever you add white to a color, you must add a crap ton of water. Like, serious. I just put at least 4 drops into this. And it already was thinned. I've been using the color wheel for to show people the transitions. It's easier for people to try it at home, Durham, if you show them how to use a grayscale to lighten and darken their tones. So I've thinned my my highlight color now. So all right, so now that's better. It's not quite as stark. Yeah, exactly. Spread it around. Like, it's really nice when you can order one thing, you know, everything from one person, but it's not so nice for all the other businesses in the hobby that we want to support. So I don't mind ordering. And like I said, if I hadn't gone to Game Envy looking for that hobby holder, I would have never seen that they did custom plinths. So, you know, it's good to get outside of your little ecosystem every once in a while. It was really nice of Reaper to put them in the hobby box to help promote them. So here, because I've thinned this paint so much, it's getting much harder to control. I'm having to do some spot wet blends with the previous highlight to blend in these highlights. Leftover stock from the RV swag. Yeah, not going to be restocked. Yeah. Fantasy jewelry pieces. Yeah, I don't think... We've done private stuff for the sculptors before. Sandy Garrity had us do a panel for a knife, actually. A utility knife kind of thing. Not, you know, like one of those multitasking, like Swiss knife things. I remember it was like running horses or something, and she had to do it. She did it for somebody. Reaper had a few lying around when I first came to the company. But I don't know. I mean, it's all about allocation of resources, right, in RS? So it's like Reaper could allocate the resources for that, but then would it make sense for the business model? Yeah, right, Norscan. You wouldn't have found Reaper if you weren't looking for, you know, different things. Spilled nun oil. No, don't. Well, null oil is a pretty useful thing, but... Oh, you had one already, so you gave your extra one away. Yeah, see? Yeah, miniature Swiss Army knives. Nice. All right, so we've got such thin paint here, guys. We need to tip just a tiny bit. Like, I have, like... Can't even really see it. But I dipped, like, a third of my brush in there. I can't even really see the paint on my brush, but I know it's there. And I know that it's going to want to puddle. I had to unload my brush about 10 dips against the side of the palette. Ten little dabs to unload. Now we're starting to really try to bring this face out. Let's see. Nice. Magnetic Gumby, that's always been kind of in the GW folklore, that they purposefully designed paint pots that dried out faster and stuff like that. I don't know. I doubt it's a thing nowadays. Back in the day, there was much talk about that. A little bit on the upper lip again. Once again, on a bust, you're probably going to be able to show a shadow falling under the nose, but on a 28mm, you have so little upper lip to work with that usually you just keep the underside of the nose shaded. Oh, you remember those, huh, green users? Yeah. Oh, had some jewelry pieces. Right, yeah, see, I just don't think the market is there. They didn't sell many. Yep. Because we had, well, I mean, we've done keychains. Keychains are actually useful, but we didn't sell many of them. I think I still might have one on my keys. Yeah. Well, there's like, I have Izzy's pin that she did, and I don't know that I wonder if Izzy designed this fox, and I painted it. I have to touch him up. But there's Izzy's fox pin that she designed. He's been sitting on my corkboard. Because foxes. Anne is a fox fan. There. But yeah, they just never seem to sell a lot. Transfer dropper bottles. Yeah, I did that with some of my paints when I first started at Reaper. Some of the Valeos, and I switched to Reaper bottles and the GW paint that I was still using. Very little. I didn't like the Vallejo droppers because they didn't really have a click mechanism on the droppers. So if you got a clog, it was really easy for your dropper top to pop off and for you to flood everything with paint. That happened one too many times. Even with all the water in this paint, I can still like see a line when I highlight. And I'm still seeing globs of fluid. Like, this is where actually we switched to tiny brush. 1 second. I'm gonna do a wet blend to clean this up. Wet blending is very useful when your highlight gets maybe a little bit too overdone. What does the Izzy say? Yeah, when you press a Reaper dropper tip into place, Pendrake, you're going to hear a tiny little plastic kind of click. Let's see. Can I make it sound this way? It's got paint cushioning it, so maybe not. Let's see. Maybe. But essentially it'll make a little kind of noise that lets you know that there's some tension there. But Vallejo, at least back when I was working with them, is very smooth. So let's see if I can... 1 sec. So, okay. So on this cap, see that little rim there? That little plastic rim near here, near the top here? That makes a click when you make some tension, right? But let me see if they have anything like it. This is an old Vallejo bottle. And now I'm going to get my fingertips full of paint. But back when I checked, they didn't have anything like that on the Vallejo. It's just smooth. So essentially, it is easier if you're squeezing hard because you've got a clog. You don't even need to squeeze that hard, but it's the nipple tends to fly off and flood everything around you with paint. Yeah, you can feel the click. We can hear it very well when we're capping in the paint department because the capper is going so fast it makes an audible clicking noise with most bottles when it screws the nipple down onto the cap onto the nipple. So, yeah. Like, I like the Reaper bottle design better than any of the other bottle designs. So let's go to tiny brush. So when you are having trouble controlling a really thin paint, look how water that is. Like, you can just see it. It just falls right off the side. when you've built a highlight with a lot of white in it that you need to thin way, way, way down to get it to blend, switch to a smaller brush if you're having trouble controlling your paint. I don't even squeeze now. If there's a clog, I just take my pokey tool. I don't even play with it anymore because I just don't want explosions. Reaper, you have to try, usually, pretty hard to get an explosion. So when you have tiny brush, it's much easier to unload it, and you've got much less fluid on there in the back, so it's easier to control. You're much less likely to get puddling when you're applying the paint if you're using tiny brush. So this is where tiny brushes come into their own. Now there is a limit. You know, the 5-hair, 60-aught brush is not your friend. But switching to a smaller brush, like this little triple-aught, this is probably close. Actually, this is really close to a Reaper 10-aught. So if you buy the Reaper Kalinskis, the 10-aught is very similar to this size. And that's the smallest size that I ever used with the Reaper brushes too, is the 10-aught. I liked the 5-aught and the 10-aught. Those were my go-tos when I was using the Reaper Kalinskis for staff painting for years. It's my very, very much a workhorse brush. Did almost everything. So now we're just putting a little bit of a highlight here, and I can control it a lot better. Again, move the model around instead of trying to contort your brush hand, even if that means tilting it upside down. If it gives you better control, do it. So little highlights there. Yeah, the Reaper 5-aughts are good. So I've got her face coming up now. Now what I'm missing is there's a little detail at the corner of the mouth. A little highlight. There's a muscle mass that comes in there. It's hard to get on a... Yeah, that totally blorfed that one up. Blorf! That's fine. Base coat to the rescue. And I lost my line of the mouth, so now I'm going to repaint. But there's, essentially, if you look at a face, and if you look at mine, there's muscle masses that come around the mouth, and they join in here at the side of the lip. And if you want to really define that lower lip, having those little muscle pouches is really a useful thing. It takes a really fine touch with the brush, so if you are a beginner, that's probably beyond you right now. But look at faces that are painted really well. And make a note of it so that as you gain in brush control, you are able to remember that detail. But yeah, so if you're having trouble controlling the paint after you thin it a lot, because for skin tones especially, you tend to thin it a lot. Then, switch to tiny brush. Tiny brush is your friend. She's definitely got a smile on. I'm going to define her lower lip at this point and grab some of this red again. David was amazed that I had never painted a model with black lipstick, and I had to explain to him again that I like naturalistic models. That means no outlandish lip color. No outlandish lip color for sure. But I do put a dark line around the lower lip. Then I block in a little bit more of a rougey color. And eventually I'll bring that in with more red. Yeah, I mean, if I was painting a model that was very goth girl, then I would paint it that way. Like, vampires are tempted to paint that way. No, I really don't. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've got a crap ton of miniatures. You guys have seen me, like, you know, show you all sorts of really pretty stuff, but I just don't paint them as goths unless they scream goth. And I tend not to paint, like, vampires, so I tend not to paint goths. But then look at me. I'm a goth who never dyed her hair because I like my natural hair color too much to mess my hair up with dye jobs. Because I watched my friends just fry their hair for so many years, dyeing it colors, and I'm like, no. So like, yeah, I was the girl in the goth club who was the almost blonde, right? So who didn't bother to dye her hair because I never wanted to. So that should not surprise you that I don't paint the same level of artificiality. Right, and see, I never liked that. I never did it. Like, the worst I did is back in the 80s, I did get some perms. But now that I know a better way to, you know, get my hair more body, I've never touched it since. Alrighty, what do we got? Ooh, it's almost 11. In half an hour, my Overwatch League cast starts. Can't wait. But we'll finish this one highlight now that I've got it under control. See how much more controlled I can get now. Like, I could hit that little finger, hit that muscle there, hit the tip of the finger, and not have a puddle of paint because I'm using Tiny Brush. So Tiny Brush does make it, sometimes I get too impatient. Like, I'm capable of painting with really thin paint with a really big brush. But sometimes, like, I'll just get impatient. And that's when I know I have to switch to a tinier brush because I'm going to force myself then to slow down. So, yeah, I guess it just depends on how much you just like your hair, right? Like, I always thought, I had some friends who dyed their hair like purple and black red and stuff like that, and it looked really good. But I just never thought it would look good on me, and I didn't want to take the chance because then I'd be stuck with it. So I was like, and as I said, I really liked my hair color. I always have. I even like how I'm going gray because I'm getting temples. Like streaks at my temples, which I love. I always thought guys had a monopoly on that, but I'm one of the lucky women, apparently, who gets wings. I call them my wings. I don't know if they're angel or devil wings, so, you know, you can come to your own conclusions. Another thing that's really hard to do on models this size is fingernails. You can do them. If you do them, what I typically do is take a dark, like a liner color, like brown liner, and do kind of a little blob, a dark blob right near to define the nail. And then I'll take like a lighter pink or a lighter flesh color or whatever, and come in and put just a dot inside of that dot. Like, it can be very titchy to do fingernails on 28s. It is doable, but it's difficult. I hadn't done it for ages because I always felt it looked a bit artificial. I say, painting a tiny miniature, which is inherently artificial. But I did do fingernails and toenails on Halfling Girl. She got toe paint. She's got pink toenails now and pink fingernails. So let's do a little bit more highlighting here. Yeah, I'm with you, Orc. It's food time. Thanks for coming, Shadowraven. It's awesome to have you, as always. I hope you have tasty lunch. I'm going to have to rush my lunch. I think I'm going to have salad. Yesterday I had shrimp with my salad, but I might just have some smoked salmon. Sounds pretty good. Totally stealing David's smoked salmon. Alright, so here we got to get here. Now, also another thing to remember is that more light is going to fall, and when you've got a hand like this, more light's going to fall on the top of the hand, right? So if you've got the hand holding a staff, your top side here is going to get more light because you're going to have shadows down here, right? So you remember that as well, that we'll probably have to highlight the upper fingers more than the lower. Yeah. Saru. Yeah, if you're a redhead, you already have a cool hair color. And once again, we're going to turn the model around so that we can paint an area with a more natural brush position. And you do that not just because it won't strain your hand as much, but because it allows you to be more precise when you're doing these fine details. Again, we're going to highlight the top of the hand all the way over. And these other ones, though, we're just mostly going to be hitting that knuckle. Get the top of the hand. And we've got the top of the hand over here. Alrighty. So her skin tone is still dark. We've lost a bit of the darkness, but we're not taking into account anything else on the model yet. Like, everything is just surrounded by gray. And so what we're seeing right now as far as our lights and darks isn't really indicative of how the model will look in the end. Now, I will remember my base skin color, and I will totally, like, glaze with a darker color if I end up wanting to knock this down. But I wanted to bring her highlights up first. So yeah. Oh, was that like, what's his name? I forget his name, darn it. George. He has a bunch of pictures of models and stuff like that. Like human models, not like miniatures models. But there might have been somebody else that was doing a lot of, like a binder of visual references too. Get my knuckles on this hand and a little bit more light up here. There. Alrighty. There we go. We're looking pretty okay. So back up. Oh, let's back out, Minnie. There we go. So yeah, that still reads as a dark skin tone, but it's definitely more of a medium dark. So what I'll do is I'll call this my soft finish, and then we're going to move on to probably the hair, because that's going to define how the face ends up looking a lot. If you did a lighter hair here, the face would look darker, and if we do a very dark hair here, the face will end up looking a little lighter. But then that's also going to change when we add in the yellow on her shoulders and on her arms, because that's going to really push the skin darker again. So all of the colors interplaying are going to kind of give you like your end result. And what I'll do is I'll get some of these other areas painted, and then I'll make my call. And if I decide I want my skin color darker, or that I've lost some of my original concept for it, I will glaze with the darker tone to bring it down. You've missed it all, Cookie! We had a lot of color theory talk earlier, and a lot of hobby holder and miniatures plinth holder talks. Your Google Fool is failing you? You'd think so. All right. But anyway, we started about 5 minutes late, and we ran about 5 minutes late, so I think we're okay. Any questions before we go? So what we did today is we took our skin tone, we tweaked it a little bit, we added some more reddish tones to it, we did a level of highlighting. We kind of talked about how you add extra highlights to hands to bring out details, and also to faces. And we're thinking a lot about future colors to use on the model. Well, but dark skin also always gets brought up to fairly light. Like this is still not a Caucasian skin tone. Like Val, if you compare, you can definitely see that she's dark skinned. So remember, it's like always relative, right? So yeah, I brought her up to light, and I always will. But on a Caucasian figure, I'll bring her up to white, like almost white. Whereas on this figure, the highest I go is a 3 on the grayscale. And it still looks, light. And I haven't glazed at this point, Val. But if I decide I want it darker, I will put a glaze over it to knock the highlights down just a titch. So remember, again, look at it next to that Caucasian model, or next to me, and she's definitely got a brown skin tone. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like you're Asia, Pendrick. I was thinking like Asian almost, darker and Asian. Yeah, so you got to look at like even when you're using like you always want to bring up highlights on skin because skin is always reflective. It's got oils on it, right? That naturally mean that you've got a very look at my hand in the ring light. You know, there are some areas that are quite light. And even a dark skin tone will have bright highlights from those oils. It'll just be usually higher contrast, especially if they're sweating. You're going to see a lot of popped highlights. But here, I've just came up to a 3 on the grayscale. I won't go up higher, and I'll keep my midtone more in that 5 to 6 range. So what's important is what range your midtone's in, and that you don't like go too far unless the skin tone is meant to be like wet or shiny or glossy or something, right? Because that's how high your highlights go is what kind of surface you're dealing with, all right? So a shiny surface is going to have that pure white highlight, which is why metal NMM always goes up to white. But skin goes up to near white on pale people, and it'll go up to near white too on dark skin if the skin is very oily or glossy. And it depends. Like, look at people. Look at the people you pass on the street. Even though half of their face is masked right now. But, you know, look at how skin looks in the sun, dark skin and light skin. And look at photos. And you'll see that the highlights, you know, come up quite high. But then you don't cover everything with that highlight. You still keep the majority of the skin the color you want it to be. So yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with the skin tone. So, but yeah, I was thinking Indian almost, which is funny because I've been watching a lot of cooking shows on Indian and Indonesian cooking. So looking at a lot of brown skin. But yes, I like it a lot. It'll be very wood elfy. I think she'll be a good wood elf. All right. Reaper, who are we raiding today for our Friday raid? I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'm planning to have a very, very good weekend, even if it involves a lot of work also. Just Isis. Isis is a great way to end the week. All right, people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please come back on Monday. On Monday, we are back to the genie. We did her eyeballs. I'm not sure what we'll do this year. No. I need to do more NMM, but I kind of want to work on the smoke too, so we might work a little bit on the smoke. All right? Have a good one, everybody, and I will see you Monday. Bye.